Welcome back to Culture-neer. This is part 2 of our deep dive into how great leaders turn around struggling cultures and create environments where people can thrive. In this continuation, we unpack practical strategies for building a culture of recognition, fostering purpose, aligning your team with a mission, and reigniting morale. If you haven't listened to part 1 yet, we highly recommend starting there. But if you're ready to lead with greater impact, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
You are a cultural pioneer, or as I'd like to say, a culture-neer. You're daring to go where others aren't willing to go. The unknown doesn't scare you, it intrigues you. You're not satisfied with the status quo. Business as usual is not in your DNA. You're done with doing the same thing and expecting a different result. You're an explorer at heart and a trendsetter by nature. You were born with purpose, called to lead, destined to make a difference. You are the Culture-neer.
Recognition is not just about results. Well, I'd recognize people if they would do more. I would reward, I only reward, top performance. Then you're not going to have a lot of top performers. There's going to be a whole lot of people that are not going to be at their peak performance every single day, and you want to get them there. How you do that is you begin to reward some effort. It's about affirming their identity and the impact that they're making. So celebrate people where they're at, their integrity, their compassion. Look for these things, their creativity, maybe their resilience. I know that it had to be tough. I know you just lost your mom, and now you're dealing with this health situation with your wife. Man, I want you to know I'm not just keeping you in my prayers, but I want you to know I appreciate the resilience you've got and the determination to push through. That's a way you can speak life into your people. Your words of encouragement reflect how you know the person, not just the position. So I don't know what I would say to my people, that maybe you need to spend some time studying your people. And that'll go a long way. So simple ways to build that culture of recognition. Start your meetings with a win. In other words, somewhere in the beginning of the meeting, talk about what we did great as a team, or something somebody did on an individual basis that was a win. Let team members maybe shout out each other. Those are the kind of things that build your culture. Again, schedule times to do that. We build this into the agenda of our meetings every week. Why? Because it's important. So maybe it's a recognition moment on your calendar. Those don't get lost in the urgency of all the daily work, which is very easy to do. Tailor your thanks. You know what I mean is some people prefer the public shout out, but when you do that, make it specific. Here's the difference. Man, you're doing a great job. Appreciate you saying that. Sounds a little hollow. Listen, I want you to know, yesterday, when you shot that video when we were doing the podcast, and you stopped twice because you thought that the audio wasn't going to be what it needed to be to represent our brand. You spent the extra time to do that. You spent extra time when you were editing that process because you wanted to make sure we were putting out the best product, because you didn't want any of the ambiance to distract from a listener that could really gain value from what we were talking about. I just want you to know I appreciate that. That just your attention to detail tells me you take what you're doing seriously, and you value what we're trying to accomplish through this podcast. I did the same thing, but I did it 2 totally different ways. I think the second one probably hit a little bit deeper, sounded a lot more authentic, and probably caused that person like, you know what, I'm gonna really lean into that, because it does matter, and what I do is important, and what we're trying to accomplish is bigger than any one person. That's what fuels engagement, guys. So get a plan to schedule it, and then tailor your thanks. And guys, just celebrate more than performance. You got to start somewhere. But if you can recognize the heart, you can recognize the effort, you can recognize attitude, you can recognize faithfulness, team first behavior, any of those things that you can celebrate besides, hey, you sold the most this month. Hey, you showed up and you're the only guy that didn't have any accidents this month. Those things are important, but so are other things. So measure what is important to you and then celebrate those things. 5th thing I'd talk about today, you're doing your assessment. Accountability and ownership. Is everyone clear in your organization on who's responsible for what? I can tell you this, if nobody knows who's responsible, then nobody is responsible. And that leads to, well, that was not my job. I thought you were doing that. No, I thought you were doing that. Either way, it's costing you money, it's not productive, and it tends to lead to a blame game, which is the exact opposite of team building. You need to make sure everybody's clear and responsible for what you expect them to do. And then are you following up on that ownership and accountability with what I'd like to say truth and grace when things go off track? What do you mean truth and grace? I mean, just being honest. Sometimes there is a time that you have to be brutally honest with people. That doesn't mean you have to be a jerk. That's where the grace part comes in. Talk to people the way you would want to be talked to. Talk to them in a way that you don't have to demean them and belittle them into cowering under your compliance, but maybe lead them. And sometimes you're going to have to be stern about that. Sometimes there's going to be consequences, but be willing to have the tough conversations. Like, it's like, have you ever talked to the guy that is standing there and there's 6 of you there and his pants are just unzipped and you notice it? You've got to know that other people notice it, but nobody's telling the guy. Why is nobody telling the guy? Well, man, it's going to make me feel awkward to tell the guy. So you'd rather let the guy sit there and talk for a half hour, in an embarrassing way because of how it makes you feel. I think sometimes we approach leadership that way. And sometimes you got to figure out how you can speak the truth in a graceful way when things go off track. It's your responsibility. You are the guardian of the culture. 6th thing today. We're going to be landing this thing quickly. Alignment on purpose. Is your culture aligned with your purpose? Super important. In other words, does every person know how their role connects to the mission of the organization? If anywhere that you can't answer that with a resounding yes, I can promise you, you can raise your productivity in your organization by focusing some attention there and connecting what these people are getting paid to do and how important that is to the overall mission of the organization and what you're trying to accomplish. Listen to me. If you've ever went to a restaurant and you had a hostess that seemed like didn't really care if you were there, they were on their phone, and you had to wait like 5 minutes before they acknowledged you were there, and then you had to tell them, I would like to have my name put on the list, and they kind of put their phone down, they put your name on the list, it's going to be 45 minutes. No explanation, a little bit of an attitude. Like, for me, I don't have the confidence that 45 minutes later that I'm going to get that call. I don't even know if they really wrote my name down. I don't even know if they're paying attention to the details. I'm going to be the guy that's going to go back and check on where I'm at on the list 4 or 5 times, which is going to cause that person to be interrupted 4 or 5 more times because of their attitude, which your customer experience will never be greater than your employee experience. So let me just say what's probably happening. That person showed up. This is just a job. It's not going anywhere. I'm working for somebody that doesn't see me, but nothing but a number and something I can do for them. I don't matter. I'm not valued and I'm not seen. You know what? So now you're just a customer that's paying. You're not really valuable to me. You're just something else that I have to do today and something else I have to deal with. And I get off work in 2 hours. That's what you're experiencing. What if the person that was going to be the hostess had a pep talk every day? All the people that were going to work the floor before we open our restaurant today at 4 o'clock. We're told, listen, I want you to know today that every person from the cooks in the back to the hostesses at the station to the servers, you are valuable to the overall experience that we're going to deliver tonight. You contribute to the reputation of people that walk through our doors and trust us with some of the most important memories that they'll ever make. We don't know who's coming through our door tonight, but they could have went anywhere, but they chose to make a reservation with our restaurant tonight. Some of those people, they're going to be celebrating birthdays. For some of those people, it will be the last birthday that they'll ever celebrate with grandma. And they've entrusted us to make this night an experience to remember. And you get to, tonight, as you go out there, play your part on making this a memory. Maybe somebody here tonight, and they're having to have hard conversations because they just buried someone in their family. Maybe they're here tonight and they just struggled and went through a divorce. You just don't know all the situations and the stories that the people that are coming into our restaurant tonight. We don't have to know all the details, but we need to be prepared for every story. So when they come in for the 2 hours they're with us, they can disconnect from all the worry, all the anxiety, and all the junk that they're dealing with in their life. And tonight can be a time to refresh and breathe and relieve some of that stress. And it starts with you when they come through the door and you take their name. So I want you to remember that tonight. That person, their job has now been connected with the purpose and the mission of that restaurant, which wasn't even mentioned that we're here providing the best food. That should be a given. They connected them with mission. That person is not going to be on their phone all night. That person is going to treat the customer that comes in as a person that potentially has a story. And they're guarding their part that they're playing on that team to deliver that exceptional experience because they understand the mission. Your people can't do that in every position in your company. You have some work to do. And do the assessment, do the hard work, figure out what you need to do. Because if you don't, you're going to lose motivation during the routine and the challenging tasks. We all have them. You need to be connected to the mission because when things get tough and you have to do it 3-4 days in a row, 3 or 4 weeks in a row, 3 or 4 months in a row, I'm doing my job. People move in, I'm doing my job mode rather than owning the outcomes. I'm still going to get paid the same thing. You want them bought into the outcome, not just I'm showing up and doing my job. It's a big difference. When they do see that connection, though, something shifts. Engagement increases. Why? Because they see meaning in what they once seen as mundane work. The initiative grows. They start thinking like owners, not just like employees. See, an owner looks and thinks at things differently. I'm making an investment here of money and time. I also have a great risk that I hope this works. So I'm thinking about all these little decisions, how that impacts the overall mission of what I'm trying to accomplish. An employee will tend to think, how can I get through the 8 hours of this day, knowing that if I just don't get fired, I'm going to make the same thing tomorrow as I made today. Now, eventually, they're going to get very tired of their job. It's going to be dissatisfied because they're not developing their potential and they're not connected to mission. They're doing time. Sounds a lot like prison, doesn't it? And that's how work feels for a lot of people. And you're not going to have an engaged workforce if they feel like they're tolerating work and just showing up. Unity strengthens when you do this. In other words, they realize they're part of something greater than themselves. Super important. So, are we reminding people that work matters to us? Are we reminding them that they're a part of something greater? Only you can answer that. But you need to have a plan that you're doing it. And here would be the final and the 7th point I'd give you today. Energy and morale. Energy and morale in your culture, they're like the invisible fuel of your culture. It's what you're feeding that culture that causes it to continue to perform better than average, which means it's giving you a competitive advantage. There's a reason why they're passing other restaurants to come to yours. There's a reason why they applied at your construction company and not the one down the road. It's the reason why they came to your church and passed 7 churches on the way. It's the invisible fuel of that culture. So your team might be hitting deadlines. They might be checking the boxes. But are they thriving at work? Or are they just surviving at work? There's a big difference. There's a lot of money left on the table and a lot of people left to impact on the table based on how well or how poorly that's carried out. You can have smart people, you can have a clear mission, you can have good systems in place. But if the emotional and relational energy of your team is low, it's going to quietly sabotage your productivity, your innovation, and your retention. And it will sneak up on you. So here's the question. Are your people energized at work or are they just surviving? So are your team members showing up engaged and curious? Are they showing up exhausted and checked out? Do they bring creative ideas? Or are they just executing the minimal tasks to keep their job? Is the emotional tone of the meetings like upbeat? Are they neutral? Or like when somebody opens their mouth, they're just draining? Guys, this is your job as a leader. These are the symptoms you're looking for to figure out, is there a problem? All these things become clues to what's really going on in your culture, and you have to pay attention to them. Low morale, it's not always loud. When you say you have a morale problem, AKA you have a culture problem. So you start looking at these symptoms. Sometimes it's the silent disengagement. It looks like fewer ideas that are being shared in your meetings, less laughter happening in your meetings, shorter conversations, minimal eye contact. Those are all signs that something's up and it's not healthy. And you want to get involved in that, start diagnosing that quick. That's when you're managing a group of people, not leading a team. Did you catch that? If those are the symptoms you're seeing, you are managing people, you're not leading a team, and there's a big difference. You need to be a leader. And you got to pay attention to know where you're going to lead people. So what are the rhythms that you're creating to spark joy, connection, encouragement, collaboration, feeling of teamwork? Are they talking about the people they work with at work like family? What are you doing to intentionally do that? See, energy just doesn't happen at work. You have to build it in. You have to create those moments. The best leaders do that intentionally by creating relational rhythms. Like they have a weekly win shout out. So they're looking for that public recognition. Sometime during the week they know, and somewhere in this meeting, I'm going to call somebody out. Somewhere on this particular retreat, I'm going to highlight somebody. And they build that in. They have a team building ritual. We're airing this, and 2 nights ago, we do 2 big events for our entire company. One is family oriented. So we rent out a recreational place, golf carts, laser tag, video games, all the different things that go with that, all free, and people will just bring their families. And that's the idea. We're able to mix together, and employees are able to see spouses that they've been talking about, and it fosters connection. And then one time a year, we do a big celebration event where it's formal and there is no kids. And that's time for the adults to be able to get together, and we publicly celebrate our team members, and we try to lavish them with gifts, and we feed them really well, and it's a themed meeting where everybody gets to dress up and they have fun. It's all kind of rolled into this 3 or 4 hour deal, but it's a ritual. It's a team building ritual that our people look forward to every year. And we're not just reacting to it when we think we need it. We're just doing it every year because you're nurturing the culture. So you need to build margin for celebration. I was saying earlier, after milestones. Well, somebody has been there for 365 days, that's a milestone. If you hit a deadline, that's a milestone. If you throw out a challenge and they hit it, you need to make space during the course of the day to be able to talk about that in an email thread, on a video call, in your meetings, whatever it might be. And then moments of fun, because joy, guys, is really a leadership strategy. It's not a distraction, but you have to be intentional about it. Now, why does this matter? Well, when morale's high, people take initiative. They support each other. Creativity flows more easy. Conflict becomes constructive and not personal. When morale is low, cynicism creeps in. Turnover rises, and the mission just becomes a grind. I dread what I have to do, and pushing and forcing myself through it. So maybe you're asking, it's a lot of information, a lot of content. Yeah, this is a big subject. But here's your next step. Why don't you take that checklist to your next meeting? Don't overwhelm yourself, but maybe pick one area that you want to improve on this month once you've done this assessment. And when leaders choose faithfulness over flash and courage over comfort, that's how we build something that really lasts. Guys, remember, your culture is only healthy as the leader. We'll see you next time on the CultureNeer podcast.
Thank you for joining us on CultureNeer, where every episode is a step forward on your leadership journey. We hope today's conversation sparked new insights and added real value to your life, empowering you to lead with greater strength and purpose. If you enjoyed what you heard, please connect with us. Follow our Facebook and Instagram pages, subscribe to our YouTube channel for exclusive content, and give us a rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Your support helps us grow our community and continue delivering conversations that matter. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, keep striving, keep leading, and keep inspiring.